that your hat can't fit ya. Either I'm with ya or against ya. Format bent ya. Back through that maze I sent ya. Talking to the rap inventor. Nigga with the game type fifth, that flame right. Spell my name right. B-I-double-G-I-E. Iced out, lights out, me and Caesar Leo. Getting head for some chick he know. See, it's all about the cheddar. Nobody do it better. Going back to Cali, strictly for the weather, women, and the weed. Sticky green, no seed, bitch please. Papa ain't soft, dead up in the hood. Ain't no love lost.
So at this point, I'm probably about 21 now. I think I just turned 20. I'm like a month into being 21, and I've probably been sitting in county for about 3 months now, and all about, you know, the previous charge that I pretty much talked about before, about, you know, getting stopped with the coke. In this time, I think I spent like a year in county, in Galveston County, and in that time, I think I went through like the most emotional phases in county, because like county time is probably like the worst time you can do. You know what I mean? You sit literally in a box, like, you know, the food is expensive, you know, you watch the same shows and movies over and over again. So I'm going through all kind of emotional phases. Like, obviously I'm mad that this dude snitched on me. You know, I'm just like, I want to kill this fool. For like the first 6 months, I like unapologetically wanted to fucking kill this fool. And you know what it was is just like me still, you know, being the immature thinker that, you know, I've been, that landed me pretty much in jail. In that year, I met this dude. His name was Lou Ramos, and he was a really good artist. And he was. I mean, they say that, you know, you don't have no friends in jail, but I swear, like, I came across some of the most genuine people in there, and, you know, really, like, the people that I'm about to talk about are probably like some of the main reasons why I'm even doing what I'm doing now, like even able to do what I do the way I can do it right now. And if you see him in Texas City, tell him I said what's up. His name is Lou Ramos. The dude, he literally just took me under his wing and gave me all the knowledge. Like I could draw. I was a good drawer, and I could do art. I was creative. But this guy, he taught me how to draw out of my head. Like I could draw after I left county, I could draw anything that I thought of, and it was all because of this dude. And he used to push me every day, like, just draw, keep drawing. Like he made sure that I would draw. He made sure that I would, like, keep coming up with new stuff. And you know, but at the same time, I was watching him, and I was watching what he was doing, how he was shading, and it was just I slowly started to get away from the way I was thinking, and like the immature stuff that was going through my head. And you know, it wasn't in county when I realized, when I started to take like responsibility, but I started to lean. It was like that seed was planted to start taking responsibility, and you know, how can I say, what do they call it, accepting, you know, things as they were, instead of like lying to myself and telling myself what I wanted them to be, you know. So because, you know, it is true, you know, you tell yourself something, you know, you lie to yourself over and over again, soon enough you're going to start to believe that shit. And that's pretty much what I was doing over and over again, because I didn't want to accept, you know, that it was my fault. I didn't want to accept that, you know, that it was, you know, I was the reason why I was in this situation. You know, I wanted to blame it on everybody. I was drawing, I was staying busy, you know, keeping my mind busy. I was drawing for people, you know, and they were like, everybody I drew for, they were like, man, like, this dude's dope, this dude's good, you know, his style, and like, you know, everybody loved my drawing. So that, you know, that positive energy helped me a lot too, to keep pushing, you know, for that. And at this point, I still hadn't like wanted to tattoo or anything like that. I had just wanted to, you know, do more and more art. So then after about, okay, let me tell you a quick story real quick about, like a story that happened to me, dealing with the system. So I had a charge, like I said before, I had a charge that I was on probation for in Maverick County. That was Eagle Pass. And I was also on probation in Houston. So, but I had the present charge in Galveston. So while I was sitting there for about, I think at 9 months, Maverick County had put a hold on me. And when they figured that they're like, this dude, he's not doing nothing with that charge, let's pull him over here so we can take care of this charge, and then you can go back over there. I don't know if it was like planned or if they knew what they were doing or what. Honestly, like wholeheartedly, but they pulled me over there, and when they put the hold on me, I was already sitting in jail for 9 months. So when I went to Maverick County and I sat over there for 4 months. So in that 4 months, I had signed for a 4-year sentence. Well, what ended up happening was I only got back time for when they put the hold on me, those 4 months. So those 9 months that I sat in jail prior to them putting the hold on me were just dry. Like there was no, that's why on paper, I only did 3 years and 2 months. That's because the 9 months didn't count for that controlling sentence that they gave me in Maverick County. So when I came back to Galveston, it didn't matter what I signed for because that 4 years that I had signed was the controlling sentence. So basically, at this point now, I only have 4 months on a 4-year sentence when I've been sitting in jail for 1 year and 1 month. So there's a dry ass 9 months that didn't count for nothing at all. Like I just sat there pretty much. Yeah. So like this is real. That's real fucking talk. Like that's real shit. Like that really happened to me. But in actual time, it's 3 years, 11 months. Yeah. So yeah, and like, dude, I wrote letters. I did everything to try to get that time, and they were not hearing it. They didn't care. Like I was in jail. Like when you're in jail, there's no rights. You don't have nothing. Like you're considered indigent. It's crazy. Like it's a whole nother world mentally, physically. I mean, just like everything around you is just do not expect things to run how they do out here. Don't expect for people to listen to your story, listen to what you got to say, anything like that, because they don't care. Like you're in there, they just see you as a criminal and that's it. So yeah, I sat in there for a dry ass 9 months. So at this point, it doesn't matter what I signed for in Galveston because it's just gonna run concurrent. So I just signed for a deuce, and they basically just fucked me out of those 9 months. And man, I had a shitty ass public defender in Maverick County. Like this dude, I wish I knew his fucking name because I'd blast that shit right here on this fucking documentary. That fucking piece of shit. But yes, at that time, that's how I felt. But at the end of this story, it all plays a role. Everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean? And in those 9 months, I learned something that nobody can ever take from me. You know what I mean? That's half the reason why I'm here right now doing this. So, and that was the kind of person that like prison turned me into like pulling the most positive thing out of the most negative situation. So it all in time works itself out. And me being the person I am, I'm not understanding that because I'm barely coming around to trying to be positive and trying to be, a better person and, be a danger to society pretty much. Because like when I tell you I wanted to kill this fool, I tell you this, I would draw diagrams of this dude's house and try to fucking like figure out how I would do this and do that. Like I was fucked in the head. I was really fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was a tough situation. Like coming around and accepting, what I needed to accept. What I needed to come around and to take that first step It's always the same. You gotta recognize the problem. You gotta tell yourself, like I said, that mirror is cold-blooded. And when you look into it, like, and you really look at yourself, like that's the best thing you can possibly do. You know what I mean? Is be real with you. And that's what this situation right here that I was going through in prison and just straight up being in jail. That's exactly what I was going through. Is just the mental part of being a better person, being the person that I needed to be. You know. And it's like my own rehabilitation in my head. Like, you know, it's weird. Like, I'm like my own therapist at this point. And so yeah, so that shit happens to me in the system with the 9 months. And so now I signed for the deuce. You know, I signed for those 4 years. They sent me back to Galveston. I signed for the deuce. That runs concurrent. The 4 years is still the controlling sentence. And at this point, I think I have like 5 months back time on the 4-year sentence. Short way on 4 years, I think, is like 19 months. So I for sure got to do another 14 months before I even come up for parole. So from Galveston, I catch chain. I go up to, they send me to Holiday in what is that, Huntsville. I go to Holiday in Huntsville. I go to my diagnostics. I spend 28 days in diagnostics. So there, you know, I get there and shit, you know, they shake your head, they give you those whites, you know, they give you all those fucking shots and shit, and you know, it's just they're like, you know, it's just that introductory period of like, you know, this is your next home, you know, this is your home for the next fucking 2 years, you know what I mean? Like, and it's tough, you know, it's definitely tough because it's like, at this point, I'm still a little kid in my head, you know, I'm a little boy, you know, and this is like a place for grown men, you know, and I don't mean like grown men like, you know, like veterans at this shit. I mean like grown men, like, I gotta wash my own clothes. I gotta get up at 5 a.m. to get new jumpers, new sheets, new stuff like that. Like, if I don't do that shit, then my shit's gonna be dirty. And if my shit's dirty and it starts stinking, then niggas gonna have a problem with that shit, you know, then it's gonna turn into something, you know. So it's like you have to do certain things in there that you don't wanna do, hence being an adult. You know, doing things that you don't want to do, plain and simple. And at this point, I'm not an adult because I'm not, you know, doing, I want to do what I want to do, you know. So that's just kind of how things are going. But, you know, obviously I learned and I started getting with the program and I'm fucking, you know, changing my shit and, you know, starting to, you know, figure things out, you know. So I spend 28 days in Huntsville at Holiday Unit and then I get a bench warrant because remember I told you I was on probation in Harris County. So I get a bench warrant back to Harris County because I have to go take care of that charge. So this is kind of a funny story because I was like, man, you know, obviously they fucked me out of those 9 months. So I'm like, fuck the system, you know. So I try to get smart. And so I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to go over, since it's going to be ran concurrent, I'm going to go over to Harris County. I'm going to sign for a 5-piece because Harris County has had a hold on me since day one of me being locked up. So that means all year in 2 months, all the 14 months that I've been locked up, I was trying to get that back time. So I was trying to be smart about it. At least I thought I was being smart. So I go to Harris County and I'm like, you know what? I'll sign for a 5-piece since it's more than 4. And then the 5-piece will be the controlling sentence. And then, you know, then I'll get that back time and then I'll have, you know, I was like, hell yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm telling my lawyer's like, no, he's like, just take the 2 years and have it run concurrent. Like, you know, it's not going to work like that or whatever. And I'm like, fuck that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still hard-headed. And so I go and I tell him, I said, man, give me the 5 years. That's what I want. So he gets me to 5 years, blah, blah, blah. So the 5 years runs concurrent. Well, when I get back to the cell, they give me my paperwork. The 5 years wasn't the controlling sentence. It isn't, the amount of time isn't the controlling sentence. It's the sentence that you have the least amount of back time. So on the 4-year sentence, I only had 5 months back time at the time. So that stays a controlling sentence. So yeah, so that's what I get for trying to be a smart motherfucker. You know, trying to outsmart the system like a fucking dummy. And so now I resigned from that 5-piece in Harris County, and then they send me back up. They send me back to prison. Well, this time I go to instead of going back to Holiday, I go to Garza West. And I know if you ever, you know about Garza West, the fucking chicken coop. You know that if you know about it, then you fucking know. You know what I mean? What it's like over there. It's just a bunch of fucking crazy Mexicans locked in a fucking box, which they call the chicken coop, because literally it's like stacked on top of each other like a fucking chicken coop. And so I think I spent about like, 2 months there in Garza. Yeah, I spent 2 months in Garza. I spent 2 weeks in the chicken coop, and then after that I spent about a month and a half in General Pop, and then I get moved. And this whole time, like in transfer facilities, you can tattoo. Like I'm getting tattooed, but I'm not really doing tattoos because it takes so much to do a tattoo in a transfer facility. And in transfer facilities, it's like real. All the pods are real tight. Like one guard can see every pod, and like the way they're set up, you just kind of like, it's a real like tough thing to pull off. You really just have to have a guard that's gonna let you tattoo. That's really it. You know what I mean? If he lets you tattoo, then that's really the only way you're gonna tattoo. So, but I'm still drawing. I'm still getting better. I'm still getting the positive feedback. Everybody's liking my stuff. And that's when it starts to come about. Like, yo, tattoo me. Or we do you tattoo. So at this point, obviously still in my growth, I fake it to make it. I'm like, yeah, I know how to tattoo. I've done it a couple times, blah, blah, blah. But really, I've only seen people tattoo at this point. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, I can do that shit. You know what I mean? Whatever. So the dude's like, man, I'll get you a machine, and, you can tattoo me or whatever. I was like, bet. So pretty much, I never really get the chance to tattoo him because we didn't get a chance to work with the right guard. But, so it really didn't happen then in Garza. So at this point, I think I'm in jail for, I think I've spent like, 16 months now, almost 17 months. So I'm going on my first 2 years. So I'm in Garza for 2 months, and when you have 5 years or less, or pretty much like between like 2 years and 8 years, you pretty much get moved around in transfer facilities. They move you around the whole time, and then you just kind of like, they just move you, because the most you can stay in a transfer facility is 2 years. So so they start to move me around, and as I'm getting moved around, I get lost in the system. And I get lost in the system in one of the worst fucking prisons in Texas is Darrington. It's in Rocheron. I'm sure y'all motherfuckers heard of that shit. And it's a maximum security. Well, I get lost in the system for 11 fucking months in that bitch in Darrington, in a maximum security prison. My cellie in 1986, my cellie, the dude that I slept with, because it's 2-man cell, it's a maximum security prison. My cellie had his girlfriend broke up with him in 86. This dude, I think he was like 21. In 86, his girlfriend broke up with him, so he decided he was gonna go over there and kill her, because he was like, ain't nobody gonna be with you, da da da. Well, she wasn't there, so he fucking killed her uncle and her brother. And I think he either set him on fire or like barbecued him or like chopped him up or some shit like that. I know for sure he set him on fire, for sure that. But what I had heard was that, because he didn't tell me this shit, other people told me this, but like it was like a confirmed thing. So he had for sure killed her uncle and her brother, and I think he had either set him on fire on the barbecue pit or had chopped chopped him up or was in the middle of chopping him up or some shit like that. Yeah. So me with a 5-year fucking drug sentence, and this dude's got 2 life sentences for killing and setting these people on fire. Yeah, this is the system I get lost in, and fucking. But don't get me wrong. I mean, it sounds bad, but at this point he's like fucking 40 something years old, so he's not really like. He's not in that mind state no more. He's like into the Bible and shit, and you know, da da da. So he wasn't really he wasn't really like a threat, or he was a threat, but not to like us. He was a threat because he was into the Bible. So he used to fight with the Muslims all the time. Like it was fucking hilarious because he used to whoop the shit out of these motherfuckers over the Quran and like the Bible and shit. But it was crazy. And I'll tell you this story. Before he like had turned to like Christ and shit, he was the speaker / like leader of the Crips in my wing. And every year in prison they have this thing called, twice a year they have this thing called annual lockdown. And they pretty much come in, they lock the whole unit down, and they search the whole unit, like in depth. Like they switch, everybody has to get up and get out of their bunks. They gotta go outside, they strip, they toss everything, they look under every bunk, everything is like a mass fucking just shakedown pretty much. And it's called annual lockdown. And there's no hot food, we eat Johnny Sacks, is peanut butter and jelly sandwich, crackers, apple, and you know, maybe some like fruit snacks or something like that. But we're eating that shit for 7 days, 3 times a day. So there's no hot food, there's no nothing. Well, you know, me being an artist and stuff, and like I had like people on the outside, like my grandma, my mom, you know, my brother and stuff, and like, you know, they're pretty much kind of like taking care of me, you know, so I get commissary, you know, I eat good, da da da. Well, we come off an annual lockdown, and you know. And in there, you know, there's no AC. So the heat and all that shit, like that shit causes fights because there's no AC. So that Texas heat shit. And during the summer, you don't even sleep on your mattress. You sleep on the metal bunk because it's that fucking hot. Like the heat from your mattress will make you sweat all fucking night. Like it's crazy. And so, you know, and that shit will aggravate motherfuckers, especially a motherfucker that don't have shit. And a motherfucker that don't have shit that see you having shit. You know, plain and simple. So, to make a long story longer, fucking we come off an annual lockdown, and the first thing I'm thinking about is like, shit, I'm gonna go fucking take a shower. Like, I wanna take a shower. So I grab my soap and shit, you know, and I'm like, shit, let's go. You know, I'm like one of the first ones out of the cell. As soon as they roll the cell, shit, I got my towel, my soap, I'm gone. You know, I'm walking down the run, trying to be one of the first ones in the shower. And out of nowhere, I'm just walking. I'm like, hell yeah, it's so crazy because like I'm oblivious to like anything around me, that I'm even in prison. I want to take a shower so fucking bad. I just want to feel this fucking water. And this dude from behind me, he goes, hey. And like I said, I'm oblivious, so I'm just walking. Like I'm not, like I know he's not talking to me because I don't even talk to nobody that sounds like that, you know. So I'm just like, I'm walking, and he's like, hey. And I kind of like out of my peripherals, I see, you know, pretty much like people around me stop. So I'm like, what's going on? So I turn around, and this dude, he has to be the biggest motherfucker in my goddamn pod. And he's got my commissary bag. And he's just like, he's standing there. And when I turn around, he holds up my bag and he just throws it in his cell. And I was like, like I said, my mind was set on taking this fucking shower, so I'm kind of like, you know, taken aback. Like, it just caught me off guard. And at the time, the position that I was in, you know, because I had, you know, I was still younger, you know, still kind of making, you know, crazy decisions and stuff, and you know, started fucking with a certain group of people and stuff, and I just, it was like one of those situations like where there's like no hesitation, you know, and like you just really can't be seen as like, you know, as having weakness, and you know, so it was just kind of like the situation I was in. So while I'm taken aback and just kind of like caught off guard by this, I have to like start walking forward because I'm like, oh shit, you know, I can't let people see me hesitate. You know, even though this guy is literally 3 times my size, and I don't mean tall, I mean like wide. Like this motherfucker was huge, and not like swole. I'm talking about straight, just fat, like just fat, like, and like I said, you know, just the dude didn't have nothing, and really, you know, after it was all said and done, I really kind of felt bad. You know, because the dude was doing it because like he's frustrated, he ain't got shit. He sees me in such a shitty ass place, you know, feeling good, you know, I'm on the phone, I'm talking to my people, I got commissary, you know, people fuck with me, you know, you know, people in the pod, they fuck with me tough. You know, so it's just kind of like one of those shitty situations, you know, and so as I'm walking forward, I'm like fucking, I'm walking, you know, pretty much to him. And at this time, like I come up to one of the tables and I throw my soap, I throw my towel down, and I pretty much gotta, I mean, obviously, I'm about to go to the hospital, you know what I mean? Because this dude's gonna beat me up, but the position that I'm in, I can't like show the hesitation. I can't like back down. I can't just let somebody do that to me, you know, plain and simple. So, and my celly, Captain Saberho, fucking, he kind of knew my situation and stuff. He knew what was going on, so he knew that I wasn't gonna back down, and he knew that I couldn't back down. So it was just like one of those situations. It was like, damn, you know, that dude who had took my bag was a Crip. So before I got over there, like I was probably about 10 feet away from this dude, and my celly stands up and he goes, he tells him, nah, folk. He's like, if you go in his cell, you going in my cell, and you can't do that. You know what I mean? So give him back his shit, and then the dude starts to argue with him. He's like, man, you gonna take up for And he's like, nah, I'm not taking up for him. He's like, but it's principle. You coming in my cell because we live together, you know, blah, blah, blah. We in the same cell. So he was like, you good, Celly? Go take a shower, handle business, you know, when you get back, it'll be handled, blah, blah, blah. And like the dude was just my celly, you know, but he just knew that I was a solid dude. He knew that I was, you know, that I had heart, you know, plain and simple. And when I got back from taking a shower, like, I was so ready to take this fucking shower, and it was like the worst shower I ever took, because I'm like, you know, after all that shit that happened, I was like, fuck. And then when I got back, my fucking, my bag was on my bed. And oh boy, the dude that took it he never talked to me. He never like, even like nothing. He never like, not that, it just, you know, he knew that it was wrong. And like stealing in there, no matter who you are, is wrong. You know, you don't ever steal. In jail, that's the last thing you want to do is steal, because they don't give a fuck who you are. Like, that shit is a no-no, plain and simple.